There can be blurred lines between a villain, hero, and someone in between. Blurred even to the point where they all look the same. Even so, these differing paths seem to be lonely ones, pursuing what they deem to be important. For the betterment of themselves through the usual revenge arc, or for others by saving their lives. Either way, an outcast on a mission is born. Self-worth on these paths seem to become warped, I have also found. They deem themselves higher than anyone else, becoming their own main character, and everyone else is secondary. Almost like the people they seem to save or manipulate can be seen as pawns on a chessboard. Easy to manipulate, easy to squander, easy to sacrifice. These paths have so many twists and turns that sometimes the journey can find the hero becoming the villain, and vice versa. But in this instance, it's more about how they are so much more alike than we realize. Whether good, evil, or in between, we can do monstrous things. We can become like monsters. And we can hide our monstrous selves to get what we want. We have monsters in us, in whatever path we choose, it seems. This is 2 takes, and this is 1 shot. An analysis on Batman Returns. If we're going to discuss monsters, I think it's only fair to at least mention a few that I feel reflect the main characters. Let me explain. Batman is obviously the hero in this film, with his sultry stares and swift attacks on the clowns that try to scare and explode people and buildings. But it looks like Bruce Wayne, in this universe anyway, has this somewhat hopeful but melancholic look about him. Kind of like the Hunchback of Notre Dame. And I'm not talking about their Disney's take on him. They both live in the shadows, have their symbolism, whether that's sightings or the bat symbol, to represent a kind of monstrosity, but also, they are fools as well. Fools in the sense that they can't quite grasp all of human nature, trying to see the best in everyone, but at the same time, they're seen as fools from the population in their attempts of doing something out of the ordinary, like saving a life, without a hidden purpose. Everyone either fears them or mocks what they are, and what they can mean to so many people. It's a double-edged sword. You can see something out of the ordinary, and you can either find it curiosity, or you can run for your life. But we can all see that there is more to Batman than what he can represent. His intentions are good, but sometimes the outcomes are not. Like when Oswald is making a speech about wanting to be mayor, Bruce sends a signal that shows recordings of what Penguin said in his car about his plans for Gotham. Now, sure, Batman had saved the city in the likes of not letting Oswald become mayor, but on another note, Oswald becoming mayor was actually like a subtle distraction from his main goal of killing firstborns. Since he failed to become mayor under Shrek's thumb, and with no one to suddenly support him, Bruce has accidentally fast-forwarded Penguin's original plan that we subtly see throughout the film. With this slight insight of plans failing on both accounts, it's fascinating to figure out that even the best intentions sometimes hold no weight.
I am Catwoman. Hear me roar.
Catwoman, the middle ground of being in between a hero and a villain, and anti-hero perhaps, has her story just beginning. We see her become Catwoman, and in this instance, we see her fall, her reasons for her manipulations, and also her rise to her own power. And this is important, because it's like Frankenstein's monster in a way, whereas they are both born yesterday. They both are trying to find their purpose, but also trying to revel in their own power, not thinking about how they are created out of interesting circumstances. Her accounting of her lives seemed to represent the ticking time bomb of opportunities. Just before she electrifies Shrek, she comments on how all these men around her have taken her lives. So what's one more? A feminist power struggle against men? Or just an astute observation? Methinks bigger. From those that have taken her lives, now was the time of her choosing how she can take her own life. Not literally, but rather the choices she can make by taking her own life back. And that excludes the likes of her new love interest, Bruce Wayne. Penguin being a misunderstood eventual villain to this fantasy world that Tim Burton has created, was brought up in the sewers, discarded by his parents because of his appearance being different. This can be heavily related to the Phantom of the Opera, whereas both are deformed, are the bad guys, but we find ourselves becoming sympathetic due to their circumstances. They both live in the sewers, with the fascination of beauty. In Penguin's case, it's quite creepy, and come up to frighten people now and again, making both the Phantom of the Opera and Penguin become, well, a phantom. A myth that might be true, with questionable evidence. However, we all know that Penguin eventually makes his big reveal by pretending to be the good guy. All three represent their own take on the same subject of beauty of monsters, of being the outcast, and about the self-worth of their chosen identities. However, it's not just the people with the masks or deformities that I'm talking about. Monsters can be everyday people too, much like Max Schreck. The businessman who is seen as good and respectable human being, but really has secret plans to take all power from the city with a new power plant. Whilst the city people seem to love him, his intentions are purely for show. His love for the city is double-edged, and the love supposedly expresses for his son seems to be lost. I only say this because there is a take I'm finding with the relationship, and two scenes can back this up. The first scene is when Chip shouts at his father to save himself, and he does, without a backward glance. And the other, when Penguin demands for Chip to come with him to the sewers, wherein Shrek demands Penguin to take him instead. It might look heroic, but I got the impression that this has to be about me persona. Shrek gives me the impression of someone that wants to be the centre of attention at all times. And also, he didn't really look fazed being in a cage in a sewer, or the threats of his imminent death. The relationship between Penguin and Shrek is a fascinating one also. We see them have many scenes together that show the evil leading the evil with their vices. From an evil in the sewers emerging out into the outside world to find his roots, among other things. The evil down below finds the wrongdoings that Shrek, the monster on the outside world, keeps flushing down the toilet, quite literally. His vices, his secrets, go down the sewers, used as a blackmail tactic for the Penguin. Manipulations on both fronts, with the biggest mask being Penguin attempting to be mayor. In a way, this monster talk can be perceived by each person's masked superhero or villain identity has been made. No, not made, but created. Penguin's saddening beginnings have his ego created by his parents' abandonment to the sewers where they assumed he had died. A subtle murder, one might say. Bruce's parents' death helped create the Batman, and Selina Kyle's alter ego was created by murder. Death seems to haunt these guys, and the outcome, even if all of them had the same sort of beginning, has made them turn good or evil depending on the nurturing of their own thoughts. They nurtured this self-belief, and nature had very little to do with it. To protect Gotham, to prevent another death like his parents. To kill to prevent more pain and to exact revenge on one specific person, say, like your boss. Or to kill every firstborn because it seems only fair based on the treatment that his parents had done to him. It's interesting. These masks that they wear as their alter egos seem to make them become outcasts, but it also defines their self-worth. From Penguin to Oswald Cobblepot, back to Penguin, in need of an identity that fits one is important. Selina Kyle seems to be in two minds about the whole thing, whilst Bruce is alone in his loneliness. Sure, Bruce is moody, charming, and caring in his own way, but we can all see the need for something more in the few scenes we see him in. The secrets he holds for himself, from keeping his true identity away by masking up, can sometimes be a heavy burden. Remember, he's been doing this for a long time. It's interesting to revel in the fact that these monsters, whether they be human, penguin, cat or bat, seem to have something to hide, something to gain by manipulating those around them. Monsters are within us, it seems, and in this film, it makes no exception. Tim Burton although making it gothic with inspiration coming from Metropolis for the backgrounds, the concentration seems to lie with the villains more than Batman or Bruce Wayne. And I'm not surprised, what with all the all-star cast that emphasises seemingly different stages of rebellion and monstrous acts. The Batman being the good and the mature elder, Penguin being evil with the added dose of childlike temper tantrums when he doesn't get his way, and Catwoman being the in-between, like a teenager becoming a rebel against their parents. All three show the difference of what happens when their emotional journeys are nurtured a certain way. Their own belief in what they feel is the right decision makes them unique. Their want to hide their true selves behind actions, words, or even literal masks hinders them into being different, makes them an outcast. Each one was created by the evils of the world, by the death that surrounds us. This creation was made them into fascinating versions of monsters. Whether those are small or big, the seed is planted and takes root. What might be the right course of action for one is not the same for everyone else. These three main characters show the low, middling, and high ground of what a person can do with what they are given, and all we can do is watch.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed what was said, then please support the show from my Patreon. And if you want to know what's happening next, follow my Instagram. To know my day-to-day thoughts, follow my Twitter. And if you want to read what was said instead, then follow my blog, linked elsewhere. With your support, I can only make this better, so again, thank you from the bottom of my heart.